don't nobody go out there, and the arena is filled with people. Now you're talking about some real impact, like taking a knee and not standing and having the Star Spangled Banner being sung, and you in the locker room. That, to me, that was just BS. I felt like if it was a group of, if NFL was made of black women, y'all wouldn't have played.
Well, but the WNBA is playing. But the WNBA is playing. So I wonder, and this is what I don't know. I have to ask you all. I found little instances here and there of, and it starts now. It starts in 5th, 6th, 7th grade about the type of culture that is the locker room and is the team. About you don't go against the team. Right. We go out as one, as brothers. You don't talk about what happened in this locker room. So what if I beat your whatever in this locker room? You still don't tell nobody because we still brothers. You know, you got some reports that are starting to come out about certain situations with male teams where they're doing sexual things to each other that aren't wanted. But people don't want to come out and say something because they'll be off the team, you know? And it starts now with, you know, I suggested to my son, hey, go to math, you know, go to the little math tutoring before the math test today. Oh, well, you know, this is the first week of basketball. You know, I got to let the teacher, you know, let the coaches know I'm going to be there. You know, I don't want to get the pass saying I have to go get some academic help during basketball. Yeah, so it's already, you know, it's already starting at this, you know, you got to show your coach the commitment. The coach is talking about, you know, don't let me hear you say, you know, not saying yes ma'am and yes sir outside. They get this extra level on all of this stuff that you have to play, and playing becomes very important to them in the school setting. Because we can all control AAU. We can pluck our kid off a team if, you know, they're not the starting point guard, but it's different with school and that locker room. And with football, that locker room is bigger. A lot more boys, a lot more competition, and it seems to me a deeply ingrained culture of control that, you know, I do look at some of these NFL players and I don't think some of them want to protest. And I think they might be willing to protest on their, you know, outside of the field, but I just think that there is a culture that they grew up in that has what's on the field is on the field. It don't involve no girls, it don't involve no this, it don't involve no that. And so what we're asking them to do is to break out of that culture that they grew up in and help them be successful. You know, and again, I don't know, maybe I'm, you know, but it almost feels as like we're asking them to really be something else. So I don't know that it's about the money. I really think it is about asking them to do something that is very against their culture. Because even the ones who are protesting, they're doing it in a very team-like way.
But shouldn't their culture outweigh that culture? I'm just asking me. Their culture meaning like who they are.
Yeah. Right. So I can't answer that. I can't answer, does being a football player outweigh being a black man?
That's a question.
I can't answer it.
You know what? Okay. My answer is D. It's like all of the above, right? I think some of them, I will not say a majority. I think there are a few players, quite a few, who come from circumstances where this is helping my entire family. You're asking me to potentially give up everything to help my entire family, okay? Then you have some who don't care, who just like, man, that's the only thing about me, I'm good, we get in the club tonight, yeah, carry on. And then you have some where it means something, right? I think it's a hodgepodge. Do I think if they would have all not played, it would have been a big impact and potentially the impact that we needed? Yes.
Absolutely.
I absolutely believe that. Do I believe that it is their responsibility? No. I just don't. I don't believe that I think it's unfair that we're putting all of the pressure on them. And I don't know. I'm black and I'm proud, but I need my job because I have 2 kids to take care of. So I don't know that I could walk out of my job. Now, again, I don't make millions, so it's a different type of vibe. I don't have 300,000 or however much sitting in the bank waiting for me to pay up my bills for the next year. But I don't know that they do either.
And then remember, some of this isn't even in their control, right? One person decided to take one stance that kind of made a public, media thing. He had his stance, and that's how he chose to do his stance, right? Other people have been doing other things for years back. And then we get this quirky hodgepodge where I think this gets interesting. It's should their employer tell them what they gonna do and not gonna do? Well, guess what? All of our employers tell us what we gonna do or not gonna do, right? I mean, you go to your job.
That's that fine line.
Right.
That's that fine line that I worry about, where it's just granted.
Yeah, you don't have to worry.
They're athletes, and there's not a lot of people that are going to take it.
Exactly. So that's my point.
Right. That's what
you can't replace Cam Newton.
Right. I
with
do.
the third string quarterback.
And I 1,000% agree. I do.
But watch this. I think the assumption is that NFL players have a lot of money. We hear $50 million, $20 million, but we don't know what that dude has his money all tied up. Has he saved anything? Does he have everything mortgaged away? Does he really have to work at that level to be able to, a lot of us we don't just buy one Mercedes. We have a Bentley. We got about 6 or 7 cars. We may have a whole lot of homes. We bought our mama, our daddy, big mama. Everybody is pulling. So the assumption is that it's always about money. I think sports is something else, particularly for men, because it's an ego thing. See, men they like those lights and cameras and a stadium with 100,000 people in it and people cheering. And I oftentimes I watch 30 for 30 a lot. And you watch these athletes, even those who leave the game, they don't know what else to do. Even if they have jobs, everybody has a foundation, somebody's over here, some of them may own some things, but they genuinely miss and they need that attention that sport gives them. As a little kid, this is what they have dreamt of their entire life. They've done it through high school, they've gone to these big time universities, and now they're here in the NFL. So do I really want to give it up? Maybe not about money. I mean, if we look back at the strike in 87 or 1987, 88, there were players that decided to not play, but there were also some who showed up to work.
Cross that line.
And they crossed that picket line because each individual person's need or whatever my circumstance is. So here's what a lot of people miss. Colin Kaepernick had money before he played football. He is not necessarily, and probably a lot of them may or may not be in the need of just having money. But do I want to miss the routine of practicing when all of this, when I don't do this, what really am I supposed to do? And then I think the question becomes, when is this going to end? I mean, when are we going to get the expected results out of this? Or is there going to be an end? Is there going to be a change? We did all of that. And Bob McNair still said, they're prisoners. We're not going to change that structure. What I like about it, I like it because now you know who Bob McNair is. Now you know who Jerry Jones is. Now you know who those people are. And if you leave the world of football and you go into business, you're gonna meet some Bob McNairs and some Jerry Joneses.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to understand how to deal with those people, and the football field can give you that opportunity. So do you leave? I don't know. I don't think most of them are really, it's about the protest for them. Those brothers and those men love Sunday afternoon lights. That's their entire world has been built upon that. And I don't know that they know how to walk away from it for anybody.
Right.
For a protest, for when it's time to
They don't even know how to
go.
retire on their own.
Look, you know, my guy, I do. I like Tom Brady for a whole lot of other reasons, but the main one, he's a winner. And so, but he's 40. And then he just said he's gonna play till he's 45. He can't go home. He can,
Right.
but there is something that's so
Pulling.
magnetic
Yeah.
about that sport and being in that situation that, ooh, it's just tough to walk away. And I don't know that it's all about money
And you know
and
what?
that protest.
To piggyback off of that, I think we can all probably agree. Tom Brady retires today. He probably has a career in broadcasting
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
He's of that caliber, and he has that type of relationship with the football world.
Right.
A lot of these athletes don't. So mind you, he's 40 and still don't know how to sit down. They're 27. They're 26. They're not gonna die for another 60 years. They gotta figure out what to do for the next 40 for work, and you're asking them to stop their work, their money right now, because they're not gonna even think about that until they're either cut, retired, or something like that.
So there are a couple of alternatives
Mhm.
though, and it's interesting that some of these alternatives don't pop up.
Mhm.
One, they do have a union. That's sort of the
Mhm.
point of a union.
That's the
in some ways,
NFLPA.
right? Is to be able to speak and say things to your employer that you cannot say on your own. So that has been an interesting development.
Mhm.
Two, they could choose to own the conditions relating to black men who are not as fortunate as them, but they probably experienced when they were younger, and do various different things, and frankly do it outside of the NFL. I know the NFL is trying to do this, that, or whatever, but do it outside of the NFL. Sit down, get together, and however you're going to do it, own it. You don't have to own it with the protest on the field.
Right.
At this point, that thing has been co-opted anyway.
Right.
But what, I don't want to say worries me, but what is interesting to me, I guess, is that there is just an inability to coordinate and effectively do something, own something else.
Well, because we don't have communities. We talked about that before we even got started. Back in the day, you had communities, and this community had this, and we had the town hall, and we go to church. We all meet at the
Yeah,
church
but-
on
but
Tuesday,
in
and
fairness,
after choir
athletes-
rehearsal, we say this, and we all say, okay, we're
Wait,
gonna
but
do
in
this,
fairness,
and we do it.
athletes have always been outside of the community. You can go back to the civil rights and you can pick out the ones and the ones and the ones that did protest, but there were a lot that
But
did not.
I think that's in every world. It's gonna be
That's fair.
a UAW General Motors person that's gonna feel the same way. Like, hey, I'm okay with slanging these cars. But let me say this. I do think that it has opened the eyes of a lot of these young black athletes who are going in, because now you're gonna have more kids looking at someone like Colin Kaepernick or your Martellus Bennett and saying, okay, I gotta be like them. Or I can't think of the young man who secretly spent his last year at MIT
Oh,
and
yeah.
then retired. And it's like, now they're understanding, okay, I do have to have a backup, because now we've had to open our eyes, and some of these players have come out and say, hey, I already kind of knew, I got a backup. And now they're like, okay, now I need to have a backup.
But I
now
want it to be another word used. I don't
Okay.
like the word backup. I want them to be educated about
An extension of who
An
they are.
extension.
Who
There
am,
we go.
who am I?
Yeah, I like that.
I'm a football player.
Mhm.
Okay, I did that. That was my job.
Now that's done.
But now I'm here, and so if I'm 40,
Mhm.
if I'm 30, maybe I'm gonna die when I'm about 80 or 90.
Mhm.
So what do I do for the next 50 or 60 years, who do I become? Because we see a lot of them shriveled up,
Yeah.
and they're always talking about back
When I
then.
used to.
When
Yeah.
they're the sum
Mike
total.
Jones.
They're the sum total of who they were as an athlete, and they never grow as a human, as a man, as a black man. They don't come back into those communities and begin to do those kinds of things.
But B, I think that's strong on what you were saying, why we have to focus on the education
Absolutely.
and making sure that they
Absolutely.
know that there are other things besides basketball, football,
Because you're only gonna
whatever.
play for
Education
so.
is gonna have to start, the education is gonna have to start not with just the books. It's gonna have to start with them understanding who they are,
Right,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
yeah.
And when you know who you are, you're able to stand on that. And I've said before, I don't believe that we blacks have communities anymore.
No.
We have, I said, we have residential
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Asians have communities,
Right.
the Arabs have communities, whites have communities.
Africans.
We,
Everybody.
So I'm Caribbean, we still
Somewhat.
got community.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Not just-
Yeah.
but the thing about it, so I'm about making sure that it's like, look, you have to understand that you can't just leave. Like I said, and y'all talked on something earlier. I wanted to jump in. I just couldn't because I just enjoy listening to y'all talk about it. But my kids come from two different backgrounds.
Mhm.
You know, my wife is Filipino. I'm black. So it's like, what's the happy medium for them?
Mhm.
But when they walk outside, people look at them as they
They're
black.
black. Mhm.
Jamal
So,
black too.
so
Yeah, she is.
right.
What's up, Jay? You black too.
But it's about what me, my thing right now, what I was never taught. I'm trying to put on them to understand that, look, people think, my son, my oldest son had a conversation last week. He said, we were just walking down the street, he said, they taught us that black is mean and black is, I said, nah. Black is peaceful.
Yeah.
When do you rest the best? At nighttime. What's loud? It's loud during the daytime. You know, black is beautiful. You know what I'm saying? You find peace at it. And you know, wife come in, she's like, well, both. You gotta say both. You know, I get that. She's trying to be the happy medium. But you know what? I need them to understand just per se, listen, man, it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about the, I wrote it down, the best answer test. No. That's your opinion
Yeah.
about white is pure.
Mhm.
Black is pure.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're going to have all these best answer tests.
I know, right?
That's what it is.
I never heard that before.
But Mark,
best answer?
Yeah, I never
when
heard
you
that.
when you talk about our communities, I think in the black community, one of the things that we're missing the most now is a power structure. See, you can't, somebody's got to be in charge, and we don't let people be in charge. You know, I know a family that they built a Hispanic community on a street, and they built every one of those homes on both sides of that street. Somebody laid the brick, somebody installed the windows, it was somebody's responsibility to do the plumbing and lay the floor. Everybody had a responsibility, and everybody got a house built. There are multiple families living in some of those homes. And we used to be able to do that, but we can't do. You can't live with me for 5 minutes because you left the toilet stool up, you want to take the trash out. We just have a lot of conflict, and the power structure in our communities is sometimes lacking. When you talked about the NFL Players Association, we have not heard, not very much from the NFL Players Association about this situation at all. So my question is, we want them to stop playing, but Mo, they haven't stopped paying dues into the NFL Players Association, which is also not working for them in any form or manner. Because we don't understand a lot of times where our power is. Because if I'm mad at the owner, then I'm mad at the Players Association too. Because I'm in the teachers, our union.
Yeah.
So if I get into a situation, a union rep comes to help me. And that's what I pay
And they're
every pay period to get that done. And I expect you to
do it.
represent me.
Absolutely.
Because I can't just be mad at my principal or the district, because I'm paying for this representation.
Right.
So they've they've totally rejected that power. I think football players want to show up on Sunday and play football. They don't want to worry about that. If somebody not representing me, cool. If you on a knee, I ain't. And you are, and whatever. But we give up so much of our power.
But I think we don't know that. I think a
don't.
lot of us,
Yeah,
we don't know that, and we know it.
Yeah, so let me make a little confession.
Mhm.
So, and I think I mentioned this before, so I'm
Mhm.
actually Caribbean, I'm Jamaican. Both my parents are Jamaican, lived there for quite a long. I don't have an accent because I used to go through the airport and people would make fun of me on both sides. So I can actually turn it on and off, it's really cool. My kids think it's really cool. And I'll do this cute
Turn
thing.
it on real quick.
Yeah, I said I'll do this cute thing at home where, you know, I start to get really mad at them and I said, look, don't make me start. Lord, she talking to me. Yeah, okay. That's better than whipping my kids.
Don't let it start.
And so one of the things, and I try to be very PC about this because I have a whole lot of opinions about, Black Americans. After and people are real sensitive about starting to chop us up.
Right.
And I'm not here to do that. I'm not. But I will say that I came into Black culture without knowing any of, I chuckle at the Thanksgiving thing because I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. That's why I
Right.
told you I was going to be on the beach, because
Yeah. It's
I'm
not.
not.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sad because I can't go to Jamaica because they got to work because they don't celebrate Thanksgiving, right? So there are a whole bunch of cultural cues that I had to learn.
Yeah.
And, my mom actually still to this day, she kind of rejects trying to learn. I'm like, no, mom, you got to do it. You gotta do it."
Yeah.
So, and I've made a decision to obviously know enough of our cultural cues to pass. But what's also interesting is, so my children don't know enough cultural cues to pass as Jamaican.
Right.
Mm.
Right. I'm so glad you brought all this up.
Ooh, see? Like I told y'all before, I was
Yeah.
gonna shut up.
Yeah.
Right now, so I'm gonna let y'all talk. Now, I told you, and I've asked Jamila, I said, listen, our kids need to know both sides. They speak Tagalog, you know what I'm saying? They don't know that. She moved here when she was 4, so she didn't, but mom know it. So they need to be taught that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Enhance who they are. But
Right.
that was just a quick plea.
Yeah.
Continue, please, be. But when we get finished, I got the next topic is gonna be, we gotta talk about some PC.
Okay.
I need a PC.
Well, let me say this. I'm so glad you brought that up, because one thing that I actually say all the time is, I think we forget that sometimes we all gotta be American and no color and blind, and we are a culture. And we have to understand that Black is a culture, whether you're American or we are a culture, and there are certain things that we have to understand within our culture. And I think that it gets so misconstrued as if I'm to this, then I'm militant, or and I just want to be an American.
Yeah.
I
But
just wanna be Black.
you're a Black American. So
And I mean,
I think we
Yeah.
we
So,
sometimes
but-
forget that.
I think we do, but there's also this construct that just is, to me, different. So, and in that our communities are not culturally in any way, what's the word I'm going, because I don't want to use that word, like monotonous, like they're not the same, right?
Right.
Like going, and some of it is just geography,
Right,
right?
right,
Southern Thanksgiving
exactly.
does look different than Chicago things, a little bit, different than a little bit, right?
Right.
And we all move around and we all cross paths and we marry differently in terms of, cultures. And so I think that it's somewhat unfair to say that we don't have communities amongst ourselves because we're so transit in some ways as Americans.
Well, let me give you an example of why I agree with that. For a long time,
Agree with
Agree
what?
with Marlon?
yes, almost the non-existence of our own communities. Third Ward, for instance, was a very viable community. If you go into Third Ward now, you might have to call it Midtown. The gentrification of that area,
Yeah.
the homes that have been bought, the 3-story this, and now it's Midtown, and it's taken a lot away from that community. And what I often wonder about is, where is the power structure that was supposed to support and save and keep that community intact? Because we talk, their little corner stores, there's not really a big grocery store, but that, I mean, I was
But
in
that's
that
the
community
thing.
for a long
But
time.
that's the thing that just seems so quintessentially American, is the transition between, you know, and I mean, my apologies, because I can't explain it for Houston. I can explain it for DC or somewhere else that I've lived. So I don't want to, because I can't explain it. I don't know it
It's
here.
probably the same.
But well, the concept is the same,
Yeah.
right? So you have a community that looks like X. Pick your X. They're green, right? And they have a whole bunch of things together, right? And they attract things, or people want to leave. You either want to attract or leave, right? And as those attractions happen, you got blue people to move into the greens, right? To some point that it's not as blue anymore, or green anymore, right? And then the opposite is true. People want to move out, or people are forced out due to economic concerns, right? So, and then they move into other areas. So just like you say, you know, Third Ward has changed, you know, people might say the Woodlands has changed.
But I think
People
the
may say,
point is,
you know, Spring has changed, Galveston, you know, all of these little places that, you know, the concept of American communities isn't generational.
Well,
but I think
and
the
that's-
sad thing is the sad thing about that is there are still Asian communities. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in
No, I'm not
Chicago,
saying- well,
they're
but
still
there are-
intact.
but
And
there
you
are
can
black
come in and put
communities.
a new building in. The Americans ain't going nowhere.
No,
Chinatown
It's
is
going.
there.
They got their own signs.
Well, no, have you
They
seen
have their own
DC? No,
signs.
seriously though, but have you seen Chinatown in DC? Have you seen Chinatown in New York? That's actually not, again, people may move in blocks, so the green people eventually go move somewhere else, and they are a green community over here, right? But, you know, just in terms of looking at gentrification and how people move around, the moving affects communities.
Well, let me say
Yeah.
this. I don't know necessarily about the green and the blue. First, when people moved out of Third Ward, they moved into where Willow Ridge is, because that a lot of the people and kids that went to Willow Ridge started moving out to Fort Bend. And then when the Willow Ridge area wasn't good enough, and you know, we were moving up a little bit, you know, people came to Quail Valley, and they came to Lake Olympia, and then it desecrated the Willow Ridge area. And then maybe that wasn't good enough, and now we're out in Sienna Plantation, and we're in, you know, Riverstone and whatever. And I can tell you in Houston, that school district, it's been bananas, because people are when you move out of neighborhoods,
Right.
what it causes, it kills a school.
Yeah.
And when you kill a school, when you don't have a school, you don't have a community. The
Right.
school where I work, Jones High School, is not even any longer. Jones, Worthing, Cashmere, Wheatley, Sterling, all of those schools, because now there are 5 high schools in Houston. Lamar, Bel Air,
Yeah, certainly.
Chavez, Reagan, and Westside High School. That's where everybody's got to go.
Yeah.
That's where because nobody, Lamar High School sits in River Oaks. We can't move to River Oaks.
Right.
We can't move there. We can move to Sienna Plantation, but we're not going to get into River Oaks. And so now, there's so many black kids that are bused into Lamar High
Yep.
School that they're bursting from the seams. But they've left my little school. And so now we have 300, 400 kids, and Lamar is sitting over there with 3,300 kids, and our best and brightest. So we go where we think the opportunities are always so much better, because sometimes we never think we're good enough. A black teacher sometimes not good enough.
Yeah.
I have to go see or this program or that program because it's over there. We don't demand in these communities that you build and create the Wheatleys and the Cashmere. Those communities are gonna die. Lamarck High School, that entire school district is, it's kind of closed down. That community in that area is going to die because there's no school. And when we take our families and our children out of areas, that's what we do, and we build up
Some other area.
And we lose our community.
And then we have to start teaching our kids about all that other
Yep.
stuff, and people don't teach our kids this, and people, because we're gone from the play. There's so much history at Jack Yates High School, Cashmere, at Wheatley. There is so much history in those schools that those kids in that neighborhood are never gonna know, because they don't go to those schools.
It's kind of like your point is something that we talked about in the previous podcast, as far as these star athletes not going to HBCUs and going elsewhere. So your example kind of reminded me of that. Do you guys, what's your perspective on
I mean,
HBCUs?
what she's describing is just so quintessentially American, and it doesn't just happen in our community. Champions Forest, that wasn't good enough for people, so then they moved a little further to the Woodlands, and now Woodlands ain't good enough, and people, I think there is a concept of American, and Black Americans are caught into this, that we have to, soon as you get a little better, you go to that little better neighborhood.
But
You
what I
better
have-
in
But going from
advance.
Champion Forest to the Woodlands is like,
We're
No,
probably
no,
the
I
only
know.
race that looks for something other than people that look
And-
like
and-
us.
and that-
Other people
yeah,
are looking.
they're just looking
They're looking
from
for
their
that, and
own
I will give you,
neighborhood.
and I will give you that
Absolutely.
all day. I will concede.
Yeah.
We're not looking for that. Because we're not looking for us.
I will concede that every day of the week.
yeah. When I remember when I was going to college, and my dad was like, again, I grew up in private school my whole life, and my dad was like, don't send her to no HBCU. She's not gonna know how to act, because she hadn't been around enough black people.
My son ain't know how to act.
Yeah, and I agreed. I was like, no, I don't know. I'm not black enough. I don't want to fit in. I want to be okay with me and me. I was already the black girl that talked white. I spent every summer of my life in New York, and I got made fun of. I just didn't want to go through that anymore, right? Move along now, we're in 2017, I have a 15 and a 12-year-old, and it is very important to me that my boys look at HBCUs. And one thing that I always tell them, and although they're in a private school, they are in a small private school, so they're not in like your big, well-known private schools that are, all over. But, I do try to always make it a point where you don't have to go to the big to be known. You can start small. Michael Strahan went to TSU. You can do it. I think. I don't know. I don't know.
So it's a fine line, because I came from a diverse high school in Galveston. We all lived in the same place. So there were 5,000 kids in the high school. We all went there, and everybody looked different. But I went to an HBCU because both of my parents went. My brothers who got college scholarships, and my cousin, one wanted to go to TCU, one wanted to go to, and the other two wanted to go to U of H. And my father literally made them go to TSU because he had had that experience, having been he played at sports at Southern University. Okay, so I went to Texas Southern, and it was the best time of my life.
Right.
I just thrived in that environment. I just did.
Yeah.
So it was good for me. Now, the thing about now when you talk about sports, because I had my daughter go, she was the number 2 player in the country, but she went on a visit
Yeah.
to Texas Southern, my alma mater. Oh, got on the golf cart, did all of that stuff they do. Because I wanted her to see.
Exactly.
Probably wasn't gonna do that, but here's the thing. Having seen her at Texas A&M, and here we go again. I see buildings that have been built with people's names on them who write multi-million-dollar checks. Buildings that are not funded by the state. This is private donor money that is given. And we can't, I don't know if we can, we don't give like that back. So when we're asking athletes about HBCUs, it's tough. It's tough if I've come from a really big time high school and we had a Nike or an Adidas and we had all kind of shoes and I've been playing on the summer circuit. It's hard. It's hard to want to go when Texas A&M has a charter plane and Texas Southern has that really nice Tiger bus that we might have to be on a 12-hour ride to Mississippi Valley. But Texas A&M is going to play Texas State, and that airplane ride that's private and chartered, we don't have to go commercial. It's different to see, to ask and help kids understand what that means. Because again, we live in the microwave society. Kids get a lot of stuff, they have a lot of stuff, they have access to stuff. So when I saw the University of Texas build a practice facility, Jody Conrad called just some people she knew. And at the end of the week, like 5 days later, they had several $1 million to go build a facility. And we got to put, you know, Michael Strahan went to TSU and he's given some money. But we need some more Michael Strahans to come out of there and be
But
able
they're not
to
going
give.
to
But
come
they're
out.
Yeah, let me say, James Harden did just start a mentorship at TSU. Shout out to Mark.
And that's good. Now I'm gonna say this because Mo did mention this before. He said he thinks that everybody should be responsible for doing something for an HBCU.
And
Everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read some of these numbers off because people don't know what it is. But I had a friend of mine. I have a friend of mine that went to an HBCU, and he always talks about it's one of the most incredible experiences of his life. And I told him that, listen, man, I was just lost on it. I didn't know. Aaron, I didn't know what HBCU was until I was probably about 27.
Yeah.
And I was on their campuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got damn, it's just a black college.
Right.
It's a black college school.
Yeah.
Right.
But man, I just dropped it off. But this is what I wanted to hit is the fact that 75% of all blacks with PhDs come out of HBCUs. 40% of black business executives come out of HBCUs. 50% of black engineers come out of black HBCUs. 80% of black federal judges come out of HBCUs. 85% of all black doctors come out of HBCUs. 50% of black attorneys. 75% of black military officers. Yeah, because they always talk about that. 40% of black dentists. 50% of black pharmacists and 75% of black veterinarians come out of HBCUs.
Yeah, so
So-
none of those numbers are surprising to me.
But you know what?
But-
They're
But
not
I-
surprising, but we don't push it as if, look,
Because I would have never
this-
known that.
Exactly.
It wouldn't have clicked. If you would have asked me, I would have had to think and say, I don't know.
Well, so first you got to do the math on the civil rights movement and back out those people, because let's be honest, in the '60s, 100%. Well, but that's, I mean, when you're talking about the federal judges who came out, they couldn't go to other places.
right. Well,
And
right.
there's
That was my
still, there's some places we don't get it admitted to and get done. My bachelor's degree and my master's is from Texas Southern. There's something about if you go to an HBCU, and I've had people say, you know, don't get your master's from there now. Don't do that. You got to go to a Rice. You got to go to here if you want to really extend your career or whatever. But Texas Southern was like, it was just like, home and real, and I knew the professors and I could get to them, and I didn't want to be in a classroom with 500 people. I didn't want to be a social security number or the last 4 digits. It was such a personal experience, but even when I got my master's degree, it was the same way. And so it's going to these big universities, there's a disconnect. And then you also don't have a large majority of your culture there.
Yeah.
Well, so put sports aside for a second.
Mhm.
You know, I think you just have to kind of decide what you want to do. I mean, if you're a black man and you want to own your own business as young as possible, Morehouse will get you there.
Yeah.
It just will.
Howard,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Howard is another one.
Spelman. I mean, there are
So
all of them are great.
some of it is about just choosing as it relates to what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, if you know, and engineers, the black schools have great engineering programs, like to the point where there are a lot of non-blacks that are going into those engineering programs. If you look at and Howard University Law School, if you look at their numbers, there's a lot of non-blacks that go to Howard University Law School. I mean, you know, so some of it's just a great education on this and this and this and this and this. And so if you have a child, you know, frankly, whatever the color, don't limit your child to not going to a school just because it's an HBCU, if that is what is going to work best for you. So my child wanted to be an entrepreneur as soon as possible.
Okay, wait.
He went to my house.
But you know what? Let me tell you this. I don't think all of it has to do with
But now I want to know what he's saying. He's stretching.
I got one too.
But what works best. Again, 20 years ago, you would never have heard me say this just because it wouldn't have been on the forefront of my mind.
But now,
2017 with 2 boys, I'm like, it don't matter. You gonna fit in because you're black. It's gonna be good for you because you're black. It's not where I wanted to go. I didn't think I would fit in. And do you know how long it took me to really find myself? And not that you gotta go to a black college to find yourself. But I saw this meme the other day, and this has everything to do with fashion, but still. It was talking about HBCUs and fashion and how we as African Americans, when you see all the dressing and the trendy dressing that's going on and how it's helped develop that and the comfortability in us in rocking it and rocking some striped pants and a polka dot shirt and a hat and really rocking it, you know. And they were saying how, and it was a BuzzFeed little article, and you know, and it had all the people, and each one was saying how being at this HBCU made them feel so secure and so free, to where you can rock your hair. We sitting up here, you rocking a natural, I'm over here with a ball fade, and you got a perm. And at an HBCU, we are, every single last one of us are 100% acceptable.
no doubt.
Yes.
Not a question, no one's gonna question,
Right.
am I going through a midlife crisis? What made me cut my hair off?
Right.
It's just understood, and it looks good.
It is. It is.
I walk in my job, I walk into my kid's school. Hey, what made you do that? It looks good. It looks good.
You okay?
But it's a different, it's that different.
Yeah.
Again, it's that AAU feel that my son got when it was like, wow, I can be that relaxed, I can be that cool.
So let me tell you this, because we got to get ready to wind down. Because when people look at this and see 2 hours, or maybe like,
Are you not chopping this up?
No,
Wait, we still ain't touched on 3 topics
But
tonight.
check it out. People don't realize we start talking about athletes, and then like you don't have to go here. You can go anywhere you want to. If you want a regular student, people don't listen to this. I hope they listen to this. It's a lot easier for an athlete to get into a upper echelon university for a black athlete than it is for a black student. The requirements are too
so different.
high. They bend the what's why because they want that athlete in there to help make
The token, right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole lot easier for just the average person, and I'm not talking about if you got good grades, but if you got B's, C's, you got a couple of D's, it's a whole, and you're not getting into some of those universities.
That's right.
You know, but if you got B's, C's, and some D's, and you're an athlete that can bring us this money in, we're gonna let you in.
Because it's all about the money.
I've lied to my kid, so I hope he doesn't hear this.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So because that's
No, wait,
that's-
I told him he still needs the
let me
grades.
tell you a quick moment of how I didn't even know the system. I applied to my schools with my scores just looking at their papers. I didn't even know.
But
I didn't even know
I
that's how that
think that's the
happened.
trade-off, and that's kind of what you have to, that's what you kind of have to weigh. Could my son go to an HBCU? I think absolutely. Can he go to a school that's not an HBCU? I think absolutely. So then you have to deal with, it goes back to also us incorporating those things. Like my son goes to homecoming at Texas Southern with me. We go to events that are at HBCUs. So when we went to
We was
homecoming,
exposed to it.
when we went to homecoming, and, you know, he got to go to Greek roll. He
Mhm.
saw the Omegas and the Kappas and the AKAs and the Deltas. So now he gets to see, we hadn't even seen the football game.
Right,
This is how the social structure kind of
Yeah.
is. And so, you know, sometimes fraternities and sororities look a little different when they're at other universities. But at this HBCU, you know, he saw everybody that looked like him, and he can identify with it. So that's piqued his interest.
Absolutely.
That's piqued his
Because
interest.
he mentioned earlier about athletes not understanding their power.
Yes.
Right? So if Donovan is
Mhm.
2019 kid, he has a tremendous summer, right? And he's a top 20 kid. If he goes to TSU, that just changes just everything about that university.
Right.
That's what we're talking about power, right? So
Right.
like, so if De'Aaron Fox or the Harrison twins or any of those guys didn't go to Kentucky, they went to Howard instead. You're just changing the whole scope. So now, Howard is on TV now. They on ESPN prime time
Right.
because you got the best players that are there. At the end of the day, it is about finances and money. And if you got the best players at these universities, ESPN got to write a check.
Right.
Well, here's the thing.
Because
Here's
they-
what I see a lot. I want those HBCUs then to recruit my son.
Yeah.
Because we haven't gotten any contact from an HBCU.
And you know why?
So you
Because-
can't get them if you don't even ask.
because they usually
Uh-huh.
they usually like, well, I'm not
I'm
going
not
to
gonna
be
be
able
able
to
to
get
get that
and,
kid.
and historically
They
that's
have
been
not.
the case.
But you still gotta do the work.
Absolutely,
And
I agree.
if these other coaches, if the mailbox is full and every day I see the same little letter, yeah, I'm tired of it.
Right.
Yeah, put it over there. I
That's a
say,
good point.
come what may.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You can't say that my kid won't come to your school
If you
if
never- Because you don't
you've
know
never
what he's
asked
looking
him.
for.
If you've never invited him and said, come and let me show you who we
We are.
are and what we have to offer.
And I think that's a huge deal because
Absolutely.
I did not go to HBCU. I am not from Houston. So to take my son to a Prairie View or a TSU homecoming would even be foreign for me. I don't even know where I'm taking you or where we're going,
Right.
right? So, but if
I've never been to a homecoming.
if there are
game.
things
Next
that
time, I'm sorry.
no, invite us. Would,
Right, right, right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we go?
Officer Roland, Kim, we are formally inviting you to invite us.
Absolutely.
See,
I'll be
because
there.
I do think that that's, I
I'm
do
there.
think that that's something that our boys and our young
have to
ladies
see.
don't see and know. I definitely
Texas Southern
do.
has a great football homecoming.
Mhm.
Prairie View is off the chain.
Mhm.
I mean, most HBCUs, that's a staple.
Yeah.
We do homecoming.
Mhm.
You know, at Southern has, and even during basketball season, you find the bands in the
Mhm.
gym.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you get to see,
yeah.
I mean, you know, Donovan was like, oh man,
Yeah.
because, you know, hey, the girls are dancing,
Yeah.
the cheerleaders are twirling.
Yeah.
It is such an electric
It's an event.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
It is.
And nobody is saying, you know, go you know,
ESPN
dog
fans,
cats, and
right.
all of that. I mean, they are getting down.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, it's not a racial kind of thing, guys. It's just who we are,
no doubt.
and culturally. I mean, that's what I do. I love my school. I love my kids to come and experience that.
YU Classics.
And all of that.
Next week.
Absolutely.
YU Classics.
We have so many opportunities to get kids.
Next week.
And so if I take my son, then I want to see a coach from an HBCU come and talk to my son. And the same way I'm going to see.
But maybe
somebody
those
from
homecomings could be
Alabama.
opportunities,
Yeah,
because I think when you think about it, homecoming is usually just alumni, right, coming in. But how great is it if there is a tent to where I can say, okay, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna bring Cameron and Keenan, or you know, it doesn't have to be a set tent, but I can't just come walk up in no black person tent like, hey,
But you
it's
can.
me. You can.
But you really can.
Okay.
I mean,
No.
it's just that.
No, we going with you first. We gonna go with you first.
Kim said, I'm talking about Kim Williams from Galveston.
Let me talk
Our whole
about-
family ran in
If we're
Galveston.
gonna talk about sports and HBCUs, there does need to be some strategy. The strategy needs to be put out by a school that has the audacity to think that they can develop a program in 3 to 5 years. And it does come with the coach and the president. I don't know that you put it on an 18-year-old one and done to say, you know what? I'm gonna roll to this school. I'm still, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know that you in how it starts. So maybe it does start with you just do the letters. Maybe it starts with telling certain AAU coaches to say, look, we may not get your child, but we would appreciate the exposure and the brand
Of
that
course.
your child does an official visit with us.
Exactly.
Especially if you have a parent that's an alumni. So now
Right.
you reach out to the alumni base and ask them, why don't you just do a visit with us, right? Because here's the thing, right? So then again, now you're talking a 3-5 year plan. First, you focus on transfers. Because that transfer game is different, right? As you know, so you can pick up someone in transfer that people still love to watch, that has some issues over here because they did not like that PWI. And, their parents recognize to say, okay, you know what? The only way I'm saving your career, giving you a chance, taking it back to fun is why don't you go play at the right now best ranked HBCU that there is. And so, but you have to start with this 3 to 8 year plan to create that type of program. And schools do it all the time. I mean, there are all sorts of different schools that have moved way up. Then you get a coach. Year 3, you get a coach that has, again, the audacity to say, I am a big-time coach. I came from this, that, or whatever, and I'm going to go to this school because I believe in this program. I see what they're trying to do. Then you start to pull the kids and say, okay, they have one premier school. Now they're getting invited into this, that, and whatever, right? Then you build onto the second one. I mean, it can be done. I don't know that it's fair, though, to say that it's going to be done through this one kid.
But you
Well,
gotta,
no,
you
definitely
gotta find,
not, but
you gotta
it's gotta
find
start
money.
somewhere.
You gotta find money.
Yeah.
You can't take a kid into the locker room at Texas A&M,
Yeah.
who, when they open the locker, there's a iMac built into, and it's teak wood.
But
and
again,
it's-
there's some kids who need to come home.
No, I'm not talking about the
Yeah.
transfers.
Yeah.
I'm saying on any issue.
Yeah.
One of the things that's killing HBCUs is we don't have enough
Exactly. Take care of
alumni and other kind of financial support outside of, we're strictly a state supported school. And so that's what we rely on. There are no $1 million checks coming to those athletic departments so that they're creating, Texas A&M has TVs or something in the wall. When you show a 17 or an 18-year-old kid, this is where you're gonna be living, and you're not in a dorm, but now you're in an apartment, and it's 3 levels, and it has a full. When you come over here,
It looks like you're still in the house
it
sharing
might
with your
look
brother.
like a little less than where we live right now, and so now people, I gotta make a choice. Do I want to go to HEB at Sienna Plantation, or do I want to go to Seller Brothers? I can get the bread at the same place, but we are,
But
they
now-
say this about men all the
wait,
time,
you're
they're
now
a
making
visual.
the same argument that these sports players should be making these choices that we're criticizing the black community for making.
And what's that?
It moving into the up and big and better
But
because
no,
it looks big and
But
better.
let me say
You
this,
can't-
I think that's the,
But
that's the
that's
catch
what we've
22
done.
of it, and
That's what
that's
we've
the
done.
catch 22 of
That's
the
what
whole
we've
situation.
done. See,
That's
we didn't
this
stay in
circle.
those neighborhoods, and then we didn't push our kids back in the day, and we haven't seen our parents or whatever.
Right.
and
But what you're
support
saying
things.
is that we should stay in the community for the community's sake, but that you're not going to be able to get the kids to go to the community school HBCU.
No, I'm not saying that.
But
I'm
I'm
saying
saying-
it's hard to get a kid to look at that.
If
If we're not investing in it
We're talking
ourselves.
about
Right.
kids. If
Yeah.
we're not investing in ourselves, it's hard to ask kids to then because we don't stay in the neighborhoods. So what makes us think we're gonna go to a HBCU? We don't support anything black a lot of times. So, well, you do. I do too. They just happen to have lot problems. So, I mean, it's just it's those kinds of things we have to, just like we have to go back to creating our communities and our neighborhoods, we've got to find a way to go back and create and uplift our HBCUs so that they're at least on a
Even
level.
playing field.
Yes, we gotta stand a fighting chance so that we're not, just we have no chance.
That's why they took it. Look, we're gonna do this few minutes. We gotta wind down. So I'm gonna let y'all unpack this right quick because it's gonna be a lot right quick. I'm gonna let each of you kind of unpack it, whatever you get out of it. But first of all, I was thinking about our world, our country is becoming too PC. You can't say what you really want to say anymore. If you say it, you're found guilty first. They're gonna call your name first instead of trying to have a conversation to find out what you're really talking about. So it's too PC. Now listen, and this is not an indictment against me, so y'all don't be tripping. I'm just throwing things out there. Are women becoming more worried about salary and showing that they can, or interested in being more of a mom nowadays? Listen, I want to know what your thoughts is on Cam Newton when he had the issue with the reporter. Was he wrong? Was he out of pocket by asking her, by saying
You're
that
talking
she?
about another hour.
That's what are you doing?
I let you have your
Let's do
time.
Cam.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, let's talk Cam, because I had some other stuff.
All right, Kim, let's start off with Cam.
Cam.
Because I'm probably the dissenting member on the couch here. I thought that was a bit over the top.
Me too.
Because, hey,
You
again,
thought Cam was over the top?
I thought
No,
the
the response.
situation, how it was responded.
Okay.
I'm from a sports background, so a lot of times when I'm talking about sports, did he run a curl pattern or did he do the? People will say, dang, you know that? And it is kind of sometimes shocking when you can hear women use the vernacular
Yeah.
and the verbiage that's associated with sports, not just he got a tackle or whatever. So I got it. I thought it was off the cuff. It might have just been in that moment. Even if he didn't think it was so much about a woman, just something kind of off the cuff. I think sometimes it's interesting how we respond, because as a female, had that been me, I would have had fun with that, because now I could use some other things. Well, yeah, not only that, but did you have a slant pattern? Did you have a bit? Just kind of go and have fun with that. But to take it
She got offended.
and then be very offended.
It wasn't clear that she got offended in the moment, right? I think it was more, and I could be wrong about this.
It didn't say that she was necessarily offended in the moment, but she went back later and tweeted.
See, and that's the problem
that,
I had.
and then the tweet
So-
insinuated that,
It was- yeah.
I am offended.
So, and this ties into his PC comment. I think, I know, we have moved away as a society from having a whole lot of standardization that comes in our house. where we tell our child, you don't call your women this, whatever, you don't do this, whatever. And where society now has teaching moments is through these random, what I just call case study. So I see it as a case study, right? It happened to be Cam, and it happened to be this person, and it turned into a case study about the word female. It turned into a case study about mansplaining to women at work. It was a case study that, has some awareness pieces to it, like, I guess I never did think about that. I guess I thought about this, whatever. And we have a whole bunch of these. And so, when you say PC, I think there is a lot that happens in social media, Twitter, someone says something off the cuff that we are starting to use as case studies to try to figure out and lock in people's values, morals, awareness, and what they're thinking. Now, I will say this, I think a lot of it is coded in some other things, whether it's politics, culture, whatever. I'm so excited I'm going to be able to make this point because I've been hoping I had an opportunity to say this. So you take the Roy, the senator in Alabama, you take that situation, right? Roy Moore, right? Every Democrat, hands down, we all are so right now totally against, adult men talking to anyone under 18, right? And where you can't do this and you must apologize and, and how could anyone accept this type of behavior, right? And I'm sitting here like, all right, Kelly. And it's just, huh? but I remember when
public office either.
But he's a public figure that is supported by the public, and people. The only way he makes money is because people are supporting him. So,
but he's not going to be making any laws, passing any laws.
Well, here's my question. Now, people still don't vote for him because if it.
But my only point is that we have these teaching moments. And to me, R. Kelly's a teaching moment, and Roy's a teaching moment. But what I find interesting is that culturally they're being treated differently, and politically they are certainly being treated differently. Maybe it's in part because of what they do, even though they did the same thing. So I think we're having all of these little, well, what about hymns? What about them? And a lot of comparisons. And I think this is just a new trending, and will continue to be for a while, way of how we discuss our own standards and our own morals and our own values. And we have these conversations using these case studies where before maybe it would be, your mama just gonna tell you, child, you don't treat women like this or that or whatever. Now it's layered.
Let me ask you this. You tell me who was treated worse.
Okay.
Was Bill Cosby treated worse than Harvey Weinstein?
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he had a
Hell yeah.
show taken on. I mean, Harvey Weinstein still has.
No, he doesn't. He don't have nothing.
I just watched a documentary on Netflix, and it's an executive produced by Harvey
But
Weinstein.
being treated differently is not the same as having your
They took his company.
They talked
took his
about
company.
Bill Cosby ad nauseum about every
And they
meme,
are talking,
every joke.
but they are talking bad now.
It's
They
nowhere
are.
near the same. The black community destroyed Bill Cosby.
We did.
Well, so I will say.
The white community is not destroying.
No. So
They-
there's the
they're
difference.
talking
I
about
think that Harvey
Completely
pretty consistently, Harvey is damned. Harvey is in a corner, and the three people that tried to speak up for Harvey went in that corner with him. The difference in the Cosby and black community is we had a conversation. We were 30-70 or something like that. So when there's disagreement, you're going to have more of the conversation. There is less disagreement about Harvey, in my opinion.
Well, and I also
He's
think
just-
the
he's
thing
over in
is,
the corner, and that was
you
Swift.
have a lot of Harvey Weinsteins. You have one Bill Cosby. I think in our community we don't have 10 Bill Cosbys, right? I think you have a lot of executive producers who are white men. I think we'll be okay without Harvey. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you imagine all the people that have come out since Harvey. Ain't been nobody else black.
And
Right.
so when you think about
Right.
that, you're absolutely right. We heard a little bit about R. Kelly,
Mhm.
and then we had Bill Cosby.
Mhm.
Then there was Harvey, and the spawn of Harvey has been, there was a professor at, I think, Columbia, and then there's another producer, and then there's another, and then there's another, and
They
then
lost
there's
7 white
House
men
of
this
Cards.
week.
That killed me. I love Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, they lost
Yeah.
7 white men
So-
this week to this.
So I think a lot of it goes into this. Number one, I think as a society, we are very thin-skinned.
Mhm.
I hear Marlon Lowe use this a lot in the gym during the summer. We're kind of soft. Everything hurts our feelings.
Yeah.
Every time you say something, it hurts somebody's feelings. And if that's what that person thinks and they said it, they think it and they feel it and they can be that way. Where we are now is we have this thing called social media where people can just throw stuff out there. Sometimes you don't know who's hiding behind those keyboards. So things don't move me that much. I really like to know what people think. I want to know. We don't have enough conversation. We can't agree to disagree. If I don't agree with you, then we can't talk no more. If I disagree with you, then you just a mess up, and let me go see how many other people I can find who are not like you too. Instead of just saying, you know what, I get it, but at this point we're gonna agree to disagree with that. But you get to own your stuff because all of our experiences kind of lead us to what we think, feel, and believe. But we take everything on. Our feelings are just on our sleeve, and we get uptight about everything. Now, I'm kind of tired of hearing every day it's a new something that comes out. And so what? If that person said it, 2 thumbs up.
My 2 cents
Yeah,
on Cam
own
Newton
it.
is, I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
That's it. I just think it was dumb. I think it was completely stupid. I think
What
it was
was dumb?
I think the fact that it was a story, then it became Yahoo News, then it became a whole Facebook post,
And
then
then-
Twitter took over.
Then he lost his
Then he
video.
lost his Dan and yogurt, and then he had to make a video apology, and then she got to come out and say her 2 cents. And I mean, I think
But
the
when we
only
find-
takeaway of it is she's racist.
Yeah, because this is what happened.
Because that's
Cam
really
is-
what ended up.
Right.
That's kind of the one thing that was like, wait, you said what? Because even if I might have been offended, which I wasn't, or you might have been offended, it's a lot of things. My 12-year-old offend me sometimes when he
Right.
says stuff.
But
If
even
you-
when
you
Cam
think-
said it, then what did we do? We had to go find some dirt about her. Because you're not going to get away with it. So now when you say something, I just can't say it. It's like when you used to fight. We just had to fight each other. Now you can't fight because everybody has
Right.
to jump in. Somebody, we got to go dig up some dirt on her, and then she had to defend that. And so she felt some sort of way. And so we're such a defensive society now because we have to apologize for everything we say. But that's how I feel. And if I'm able to express it, even if you don't agree with it, like, really, why do I have to apologize for something that I said that now I have to apologize to all the women in the world?
Right. And now
I'm
that
sorry, women. I said this really just kind of
Joking.
Just
joking
in a-
with her.
Yeah.
But now, as women, we hung him on the cross.
Right.
And so now he has to apologize to every woman, every woman, which I've had men say that a lot of times about things that I know about sports. And I've never been offended like one
Right.
time, because it kind of takes me into the conversation. So now we can talk.
Right.
Now you know I know about that.
Right.
Watch this. I know this
Right.
too. Now we can talk.
Right.
So one of the things is that people have different skins. I actually happen to be super thick-skinned. And I used to I would say 3 or 4 years ago, I had your attitude dead on. I'd be sitting there on Facebook like, man up. It's just, But because I spend probably too much time on Facebook and Twitter looking at things and talking, it's part of my, thing is, I get that you can get really triggered by something. I can get really triggered, and they will be 2 different things, right? So there is something that is gonna piss you off. I can give you an example. In this conversation, we talked about single moms. And you had an opinion that was like, oh, hell no, y'all know, you know what I mean? But, you know, we, all three of us have been single moms, but it didn't affect me the same way. And I think that's part of what social media has sort of turned the human being into a fully sensitive senses, and that's not the case. People are sensitive about certain things, and it usually ends up being, this is why they have the trigger warning issue, right? It's usually things that are personal to us. And
everything is personal now.
No. You have your set of personal things. Like I have things that are personal to me. You have things that are personal. And social media will conglomerate them all into the straw man sensitive person. It really does. I do think people have to, I think one of the things that could be good to come out of this is to appreciate that sometimes your words hurt. Like, they just hurt. And the question is what you're saying worth the hurt that you're gonna cause? And certainly there's some, like Cam Newton absolutely didn't think he was hurting anyone. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? But the point of that case study was, hey, guess what, guys? There's a lot of times when you hurt people and they don't say anything.
Well, you know what? As we get ready to close, it's a lot of times women say things, and us as men, we just take it on the chin.
All the time. And y'all need to start.
And you know what? if she can't handle it, she shouldn't have been in that room.
I agree.
Period.
And you remember that adage, sticks and stones.
If you ask a question, you better be ready for the response. Because the last thing you want to do is, the podium has turned into PC.
Right.
When they stand in front of the podium, now it's not the truth. They're just telling you something so that they don't get any
They don't get
Trump,
fined.
So can
Well,
Trump,
I wanna be
so can
like-
Trump say everything he says at the
He
podium and on
does.
Twitter?
He
does, but are we okay with it?
But there's no repercussion. He never apologizes.
Ain't
And
that
I'm
But
happy.
again, we cannot put Trump and athletes in the same boat, and we do that a little too much. And
Oh,
All right, listen. I want to thank y'all again. I might title this 3 Angry Women.
That'll offend me.
I want you to title it INDEP.
Lil Boosie.
You gotta add this. You gotta add the 3 angry
Black.
You gonna hold it, you gonna hold it.
I guarantee you, everybody listen to that.
That's right.
Romeo Ride, Marlon Lowe, Mr. Summer. We out.
Thank